7 families had brought an action against Lake Macquarie Council for land slippages. 6 lived above the council reserve and 1 below it. After weeks of legal argument, Justice Loveday delivered his judgment in Sydney's Supreme Court. Peter and Norla Hicks, whose house lies below the council reserve, won their case. Justice Loveday said the danger to the Hicks of unstable fill on the council reserve constituted a nuisance. But the 6 Madison Drive families were not so fortunate. Their case against Lake Macquarie Council for negligence. Camillo and Stephanie Allen were back at work today at their Hamilton fruit shop. They're uncertain about whether they'll ever move into their Madison Drive house. Having failed to gain compensation, they now face a legal bill of about $60,000.
We've paid out a lot of money. A lot of money which we can't afford. It's just a hole where money is just being engulfed. It's just ridiculous.
Justice Loveday was critical of the Allens. He said Camillo made claims for substantial damage in the earthquake and claimed again for the same damage in the landslip. Under cross-examination, his credibility was destroyed before he eventually conceded that his building had sustained no structural damage because of the 1990 landslip. The 6 families are considering an appeal. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
It's the driver's curse. Every time you pump petrol into your car, money is siphoned out of your pocket. But Newcastle motorists are grumbling that compared with Sydney, they're paying too much, and it's burning up them and their dollars.
It's garbage and we've got to pay it, so, we've got to have cars, so can't help it.
Could be a bit cheaper, it'd be better.
Yes, I think I pay too much.
It's complaints like these that prompted the Prices Surveillance Authority to hold a preliminary inquiry into how much Newcastle service stations are charging. The Prices Surveillance Authority believes Newcastle motorists are not being squeezed at the Bowser. The authority says prices in Sydney are not that much lower, and the reason for the slight difference is that there's not as much competition in Newcastle. Those working in the stations say they're barely making a living.
We're looking probably roughly about the gross profit margin about 5 to 7%, and generally there's not many businesses that run along those lines, so we don't rip off the customers, we just run the business trying to get by.
Petrol prices on the far north coast are much the same as the Hunters, varying between 68.9 cents a litre and 71.9. In Coffs Harbour, motorists are paying 73.9, and in Tamworth, the prices can climb a cent above that. But those prices are nothing compared with what the Australian Democrats would like to see charged. Visiting Newcastle with colleague Elizabeth Kirby to unveil the Democrats' Getting to Work plan, Senator Karen Sawada said the party strategy proposes abolishing car registrations. But to replace the revenue, petrol prices would skyrocket by 16.5 cents a litre.
Those who use the roads, those who use polluting fossil fuels would actually pay for the environmental damage that does, and would actually pay for the kind of damage done to our roads.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
By cutting the President's Cup teams from the graded competition and returning them to the junior ranks, each club estimates it will save in the region of $150,000. But this is not the only consideration for the move that was expected in 1995 anyway.
Not purely financial, it's in the interest of the development of the game as well, but there are financial pressures out there on quite a few of the clubs, and the ongoing negotiations with the Players Association have brought this to a head with their demands for minimum payments for under-21s players, which would put more pressures on all the clubs.
Newcastle boast one, if not the best junior development programs in the Winfield Cup, and although the workload could increase with the under-21s coming back to the Junior League, there shouldn't be too many changes.
Won't interfere at all. Actually, I think development will become even more important in the structure of the game as it continues through the 1990s and beyond.
But don't despair. For those early birds who like 3 grades of football on Winfield Cup match day, good news.
If the New South Wales clubs retain their President's Cup side, then we will still play 3 games every week. We either go away or play at the Marathon Stadium, and that's what we will be fighting for all the way down the line. We do not see the 21s playing anywhere other than with the environment here on that we get on Winfield Cup on Winfield Cup days.
The new $150,000 centre will occupy a commanding position on Nelson Head, overlooking much of Port Stephens, and will coordinate relief and rescue work on land and sea. The site is already home to the Australian Volunteer Coastal Patrol and the freshly restored Nelson Head Lighthouse Cottage. Volunteers have coordinated sea rescues from a converted World War II gun emplacement on the headland for the past decade. The new building will be equipped as an emergency control centre, which, in conjunction with police, will coordinate relief and rescue work. Coastal Patrol Commander Alan Hudson says the existing building is too small to handle a big increase in recreational boating. Meanwhile, new water safety legislation is expected to be passed, enforcing similar drink driving penalties on boat operators as those currently applying to motorists. Penalties would include stiff fines, disqualifications and prison terms.
Bullaroo Public School lies in the shadow of the Pasminco metal sulphide plant. Tests have shown the level of lead in soil at the school is abnormally high. Blood lead levels of children are also a major concern. Measures have been taken in the hope of reducing blood lead levels, but according to the Department of Education, there has been no change. Virginia Chadwick has ordered that the school be relocated as soon as possible. The 82 students will be moved into demountable classrooms on the Spears Point site as early as next week, while tests and remediation work are carried out at Bullaroo. Argenton School, which is also a close neighbour of Pasminco, will undergo further dust and soil tests. But at this stage, blood lead level tests on children have shown positive results. Under pressure, a spokesperson for the Minister, Virginia Chadwick, made the announcement on Bullaroo this afternoon. The Education Department had planned to inform the public on Monday. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
"52 entries have been received for this novel event from as far away as Lismore in the north and way down the south coast, where current race drivers will go bumper to bumper with people who have never set foot on a track, let alone behind the wheel. And the cars? Totally stock standard. Well, almost.
They must appear standard. To look at the cars, they must have the standard wheels and bodies and motors. You can do a few modifications to engines, but not very much. No, it's very, very basic, yeah.
5 rounds of qualifying will be raced with 4 heats tomorrow, with the remaining heat, the semi-finals and the 24-car 100-lap final on Sunday. The promotion is aimed at attracting new members to the sport.
So that is the main idea of it. There are a few drivers that have driven before, but I don't think that's going to make a big difference at the end of the race.
For Cowboy Lilford, returning to the hot seat is a trip back into the memory banks.
I had actually retired from Speedway, but for $5,000 to win, I figured it was a pretty good odds to have a go, so you're going to have to be out there and fighting for every point against the novices, yeah.
You don't just walk into this 23-year-old competition. To qualify for the Carrington comp, you have to be champions at your own club. 48 select pairs started out this afternoon. It came down to the Wall's End pair of John Scobie and Kevin Franklin, up against Neil Thurkel and Prez Hornby from the Katara Club, all four making their debut in a final at Carrington. They battled it out over 21 ends. Scobie and Franklin edged out the Katara couple, 21-18 the final score. $1,500 in prize money all up. The winners pocketed $400 each.
Farmers gathered for a workshop organised by the North West Farm Safe Committee in Narrabri. Outside it was raining.
I would think that the farmers who were here were absolutely delighted, but they probably didn't hear what was being said. They were listening to the rain.
All jokes aside, President of the committee, Roger Butler, wants farmers to listen to its safety message, in particular regarding the repairs and maintenance of machinery. Protective masks and muffs should be worn. Riding motorbikes and horses come with the territory, but shouldn't be taken for granted. Precise figures about the number of farmers who have accidents are unavailable.
The extent of the problem we can only deduce from comparing the figures of admissions and treatment with those in other industries. And we believe it is as bad, as worse, or as bad as almost any other industry, with the possible exception of mining.
Roger Butler wants farmers to think about the risks while they're working.
It seems to be complacency. We've done it this way for so long that we never stop to think of the risks attached to it.
Ted Reynolds was making his usual early morning cleaning rounds of Hamilton's Exchange Hotel when he was confronted by two men at a service entry to the building, both wearing balaclavas, one holding a shortened firearm to Ted's stomach. He was forced to the floor, his hands roughly bound with masking tape. Ted's keys to the hotel, lock-up and safe were taken. While one man stood guard over him, the other raided cash boxes. After telling Ted not to move for 15 minutes, the pair fled into the darkness with about $10,000. Police dusted the scene for fingerprints this morning, and despite his ordeal, Ted says it'll be back to business as usual for him tomorrow. And police are regarding as suspicious a fire that took hold in a room of the Katara High School last night. Textbooks and furniture went up in smoke, forcing firefighters to don breathing apparatus to get at the blaze. Adjoining rooms of the two-storey brick and concrete building suffered smoke, heat and water damage.
In this game, everything is big. Big dice, a big 300 square metre board, big hotels, and of course, big bucks.
The Guinness Book of Records say this is the biggest Monopoly board and the biggest Monopoly game that is available in the world.
The rules are basically those of the miniature version. You throw the dice and you take your chances. Tonight, 4 teams of local real estate agents will be playing to win a monopoly of the market in a fundraising run for the Hunter Mission. The money going towards employment programs. Each board position is sponsored. Hunter Water with the Waterworks. Centre can also get involved buying shares in the competing teams. Oh, and the police will be on hand to make sure the jailbirds spend their time inside without too much distraction to other players. Peter Ryan, NBN News. The workers on this site have won a 2.5% pay increase, with a further 2% expected in the next 2 months. Trelaws at Rutherford near Maitland produce couplings, valves and nozzles to work with bulk liquids and gases. Last year the company was doing it tough. 20 of the 103 staff were retrenched, the working week cut from 5 to 4 days. 6 months ago, workers, bosses and metal trades unions began talks on forging an enterprise agreement, a specific contract spelling out higher production quotas, reducing waste and creating more flexible working conditions a year in advance.
I think inevitably all Australian industries will have to adopt this form of arrangement between the workers, the management and throughout all levels of staff within the organisation.
Unlike the enterprise agreements suggested by the state government, these federally approved agreements begin by accepting basic award conditions. So unions like the Amalgamated Metalworkers Union have given it their okay. According to management, the outlook for Trelaws is looking bright, and workers too are confident if increased productivity means more money and all-important job security.
In the long term, I hope it'll be really good for everybody here.
About 110 enterprise agreements have been set up nationally, mostly in the metal trades. Alco Steel, Hawker Noise Metals Division and Ganninans at Hexham have also set up the agreements. At least 20 more Hunter companies are negotiating deals. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Seven, eight. Oh, you can't count.
Can I move 7 places, please?
Yeah, right.
Are you moving? Where are they going? What are you watching?
On the same day as the Job Summit, one of Australia's larger employers is being criticised for withdrawing job security for its 50,000 staff. Which employer? The Commonwealth Bank. According to the Banks Officers Association, the company has launched a series of staffing reviews. The association believes those reviews could result in a cut of 60 jobs from the 610 working in the Newcastle area and another 60 from the almost 700 employed in North Coast and New England branches.
A new customer service program is being introduced into the bank along with a quota management system, and the bank expect to reduce the numbers of people required in the branches in the order of somewhere between 7 to 9%.
The association has also criticised the bank for currently not recruiting any young people. It says in the past thousands of adolescents have relied on the bank to gain their first step on the career ladder, and to ignore the young in times of record unemployment defies logic.
In traditional areas of employment of youth, such as banks, when they close the door and in fact then look at the number of jobs they've already got to see whether they need them, well, where is the hope for the youth that we're educating to have such jobs in banks?
Association delegates are meeting in Newcastle in an hour's time to discuss what can be done to combat the possible job cuts. A Commonwealth Bank spokesman says there's no specific target for job cuts, but the company does have efficiency reviews, which inevitably lead to fewer positions. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
The main objective of any rescue crew's training is to free victims trapped in a wreck as quickly as possible. It's a traumatic event for everyone, but it's even more distressing when there are children involved, often unhurt but deeply traumatised. Now rescue crews are taking a new approach to ease the pain. The Trauma Teddy is joining rescue fire brigade units across the state as an essential new member of the team.
Where we've got children involved who are stressed or under duress, the rescue operator will be able to give the Trauma Teddy to the child to try and get their mind off the incident.
So far, Trauma Teddy doesn't have a name, but the firefighters would welcome any suggestions. Tom Hilston, NBN News.
In a statement, Commissioner Connor, who presided over Warwick Armstrong's case, said the agreement reached in the Industrial Commission was twofold. One, that the Council shall withdraw Mr Armstrong's suspension, and that Mr Armstrong will take early retirement. Commissioner Connor stated that Mr Armstrong is 63 years old, and settlement of the matter in the manner outlined is a sensible course to adopt for both parties. The matter of the suspension of Shire Clerk Cess Cotton and engineer Jeff Bickford, who were suspended on February the 18th along with Mr Armstrong, is still unresolved. Their case is set down for hearing at the Commission on August the 10th. There's also been no action over the suspension of acting engineer Trevor Graydon. Shire President Bevan O'Regan says he's pleased the matter was settled by conciliation rather than arbitration, which has saved a lengthy hearing which would have resulted in financial and personal cost to all parties.
The strains of Advance Australia Fair rang out around Bennett's Green Bowl. 108 ambulance officers from New South Wales and Queensland stood tall, getting ready for the Ambo's Olympic equivalent. Competition fierce and friendly is the motto. Friendly's right, you get 10 points just for entering. First things first, the official part of proceedings. The king and queen of the tournament gowned and crowned. And the royal couple rolling one down. 3-pin competition, the idea was to miss. And finally, the fair dinkum alley assault. The hunter tipped to take the 10-pin title again. The Ambo athletes will be playing squash tomorrow. The pistol shoots on Sunday.
In Armidale, as part of a nationwide tour, Australian Institute of Engineers President Murray Gillen claimed our engineers' ingenuity would lead Australia's economic recovery.
You can have all the ideas in the world, you can have all the scientific research in the world, but unless you can turn those ideas into products which can be marketed overseas and marketed at a profit, we really have no wealth. And it is that conversion in the development phase into commercial products where engineers have their greatest contribution.
Like more than 10% of Australians, many engineers are unemployed, also fighting the ravages of recession. But Mr Gillen says industry needs them as much as it needs increased productivity. He says they are the creative a wealthy country.
You cannot turn this country around by just exporting iron ore or even by making steel. It's only when we make clever products and clever gadgets, but clever services that people will buy that makes the difference.
A set of man can't win, but it's Orange Kid. He clears out, and Orange Kid goes on to score pretty well. Eastern Command runs to second, but Orange Kid scores. Eastern Command second, a set of man third.
2, 5 and 1, Orange Kid from Eastern Command and Ascent of Man. At Gunnedah, the fifth was the open handicap over 1,300 metres. Protest dismissed in the fifth, Gallery Star from Kimgo and Night Tides, the time 1:18.6 for the journey.
Customers were told about the closure by mail on Friday. A simple 2-page letter advised them as of September 4th the town would be without its Commonwealth Bank. Last night, angry customers and residents filled the town's hall to protest against this decision. The community is angry about the way they were informed of the closure.
No one had any prior knowledge that this action was going to take place.
A 9-member committee was formed to spearhead the town's fight to save the bank that was established there in 1933, in the middle of the Great Depression. The group will meet with Regional Manager Stan Ellam on Thursday with a plan of action to fight to save the branch.
So I think they could streamline their operations and give us good banking facilities.
The Commonwealth Bank cites the reason for the closure on falling patronage and the branch being commercially unviable. Residents fear if the closure proceeds, the remaining bank, the National Australia, could also face the same fate in the near future. While the Commonwealth Bank proposes to provide some of its services through the local post office, the community is concerned about this offer. The nearest branches after September will be at least 40 kilometres away at Scone or Corindai. Murrurundi will again unite on Thursday with a peaceful protest planned for outside the Commonwealth Bank to coincide with a visit by the regional manager. The town wants the Commonwealth Bank to know they won't let the branch be closed without a fight.
They're good fighters and I think they'll fight well this time.
They gathered outside Narrabri RSL this morning, ready for a short march to the council chambers. A wall of ratepayers converged on council, angry over a rash of staff suspensions and council's overall performance. As council sat for its monthly meeting, those outside heard a variety of speakers voice their concerns.
It would be fair to say that the allegations of corruption, more than any other action, may have brought the stench of disrepute into our shire and into the minds of potential investors and residents of the future. We can only hope that there will be no lasting damage to our shire's reputation.
The Narrabri Shire Council's use-by date is up. They've expired. They must cut our losses, cut their losses and resign. Resign now!
That call was formally put to the gathering. Endorsed by all but one brave individual. Another resolution calling for council to act on allegations of staff corruption or withdraw the accusations received the same support.
People are saying that this is corrupt, the council is saying there's corrupt actions going on, they're too big, the press has said they're too big for him to handle, somebody's got to handle them. Well, somebody's got to handle them. It's up to council now to take legal action or else withdraw the allegations.
While disappointed with the turnout, organisers believe council must be aware of ratepayers' discontent. They say the matter is now in council's hands.
The next step's up to council. It's up to them now to decide what they're going to do. We've heard repeatedly from the President throughout the years that he believes in citizens-initiated referenda. If he believes in citizens-initiated referenda, surely this is that.
Free shot. Cheers, shirt.
The six-member squad of Anna Harshman, Emma Galvin, Michelle Harris, Ashley Howland, Todd Hayne and Jared Ewing from Gunnedah South Primary have made their way into the final 4 teams in the Victor J. Kelly Shield. The competition attracts more than 100 teams from primary schools across the state. To win their way into the state semi-finals, the Gunnedah team has had to win not only their area final, but also inter-regional clashes. On Friday, they'll play the semi-final and hopefully make it into the final. Both games will be played at Sydney's White City.
This is the first time a Gunnedah team has played in finals.
Judith Simpson says the squad has performed so well because of their dedication to practice.
And they have very good coaches which train them every week, and they play in our local competition and in the northern competitions around the district, and they get plenty of practice that way.
Both the semi-finals and finals were played over 2 days. 24 sides took part in the games in men's, ladies, over 35s and mixed divisions. Organisers say the standard of competition was extremely high, with the finals a tough affair. In the men's A division final, Tamworth downed Singleton 145 to 118, while the men's B grade game went to Muswellbrook, which defeated Inverell. Singleton got up over its Hunter counterparts, Muswellbrook, in the ladies' final, while in the Masters division, Tamworth defeated Inverell. The under-17s final went to Singleton, and the mixed division was taken out by Glen Innes, which was too strong for Inverell. The winning sides will now play in the country championships at Singleton on August 7th, 8th and 9th.
Once the pride of Merra North, the 88-year-old homestead is now in ruins. Sunday night's blaze gutted the home, designed by the man who planned the layout of Canberra, Walter Burley Griffin. It's alleged an explosion started the blaze, but an explosion of what has had police baffled since Monday. The arson squad and scientific police arrived at the scene last night and this morning sifted through the rubble. The cause is being treated as suspicious, with residents and witnesses to the fire being interviewed by police. Damage to the house is estimated to run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Police are expected to remain at the scene for at least another 3 to 4 days.